I didn't expect to wake up yesterday to the news that the senator from the 22nd district had overnight accused me by name of grooming and sexualizing children in an email fundraising for herself. So I sat on it for a while wondering why me. And then I realized, because I am the biggest threat to your hollow, hateful scheme. Because you can't claim that you are targeting marginalized kids in the name of, quote, parental rights if another parent is standing up to say no. So then what?
It's politics as usual in Michigan when a Democratic state senator was accused of being a groomer by a Republican colleague. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and Mallory McMorrow laid into the entire Republican platform, or rather its lack of a platform, when she addressed comments made against her by an elected Republican official that she said were little more than QAnon propaganda.
Growing up, my family was very active in our church. I sang in the choir. My mom taught CCD. One day, our priest called a meeting with my mom and told her that she was not living up to the church's expectations and that she was disappointing. My mom asked why. Among other reasons, she was told it was because she was divorced and because the priest didn't see her at Mass every Sunday. So where was my mom on Sundays? She was at the soup kitchen with me. My mom taught me at a very young age that Christianity and faith was about being part of a community, about recognizing our privilege and blessings and doing what we can to be of service to others, especially people who are marginalized, targeted, and who had less, often unfairly. I learned that service was far more important than performative nonsense like being seen in the same pew every Sunday or writing Christian in your Twitter bio and using that as a shield to target and marginalize already marginalized people.
In the clip, McMorrow talks about how the GOP could choose to debate on political policy and platform, but they've given up there, instead choosing to remove themselves from the debate stage entirely, literally. Mitch McConnell even said that the GOP deliberately does not have a legislative platform going into the 2022 midterms.
So who am I? I am a straight, white, Christian, married, suburban mom who knows that the very notion that learning about slavery or redlining or systemic racism somehow means that children are being taught to feel bad or hate themselves because they are white is absolute nonsense. No child alive today is responsible for slavery. No one in this room is responsible for slavery. But each and every single one of us bears responsibility for writing the next chapter of history. Each and every single one of us decides what happens next and how we respond to history and the world around us. We are not responsible for the past. We also cannot change the past. We can't pretend that it didn't happen or deny people their very right to exist. People who are different are not the reason that our roads are in bad shape after decades of disinvestment, or that healthcare costs are too high, or that teachers are leaving the profession. I want every child in this state to feel seen, heard, and supported, not marginalized and targeted because they are not straight, white, and Christian.
But how can they debate on nothing? And how are they planning to win an election based on nothing? It reminds me of that song from Wicked where she's talking about celebrated heads of state. They don't need brains or knowledge, they just need to be popular, right? And it's very easy to get people to like you if in fact that is your goal. It's easy to say all the right things to get the people to like you. It's basically what internet influencer culture is, and in politics we see rhinos and dinos all the time because, again, it's relatively easy to adapt somebody else's talking points as your own. You just have to pay close enough attention to what they're saying, and then you just say those same things. Most of the time, you don't even have to be clever about it because most people probably won't ask it of you. It's how Manchin and Sinema got to where they are today.
We cannot let hateful people tell you otherwise to scapegoat and deflect from the fact that they are not doing anything to fix the real issues that impact people's lives. And I know that hate will only win if people like me stand by and let it happen. So I want to be very clear right now. Call me whatever you want. I hope you brought in a few dollars. I hope it made you sleep good last night. I know who I am. I know what faith and service means and what it calls for in this moment. We will not let hate win.
But when it's one of the fundamental institutions of the governing body of the entire nation, the institution that literally determines how people in a country get to live their lives, it's not okay for it to all be baseless. It's not okay for a party to pander to its fringes so heavily that that fringe has been allowed to overtake the entire party, especially when that fringe is fundamentally conspiratorial. The conspiracies are based on nothing, the logic and loopholes and leaps are nonsensical, it flies in the face of Occam's razor, and it exemplifies the notion that people will see what they want to see, nothing more, nothing less. And believing in something does not make it any more true. So what the GOP has chosen to do is not to challenge the delusions of their most delusional voters for that precise reason, because those people are still voters. And while that might work for politicians, it doesn't work for us. That said, the GOP should be careful. Following the Capitol insurrection in 2021, thousands of Republicans left the party. Unfortunately, that's what it took for people to finally be moved to action, but at least it happened. Will it hold, though? Will all those people who proclaim to no longer be a Republican actually vote for Democratic candidates come November? In McMorrow's speech, she called on straight, white, Christian, suburban moms to take a stand against the new direction the GOP is leaning hard into. She brought up a great point, though, that in my opinion doesn't actually get brought up enough. That particular demographic is credited with getting Donald Trump elected, but McMorrow rightly pointed out that they're often uninspired to do or say anything uncomfortable because they're already comfortable. They don't need things to change necessarily because of things people are fighting for, like affordable housing, a stronger labor force, higher wages, less discrimination against racial, gender, or economic lines. These things don't affect them in real, tangible ways, at least not in the same way that they affect so many other people. It's like when Liz Lemon from 30 Rock told everybody that she was going to vote for Obama, but she was like, I'll probably just vote for McCain once I'm in the booth. And on a personal note, the straight, white, Christian suburban moms that I know, at least the ones who vote Republican, they aren't the ones trying to change any kind of status quo. It's working for them. Why would they change it? But growth is uncomfortable, practically by definition. It's not supposed to be easy to grow and learn, and it's supposed to make you feel some type of way. I was just watching a stand-up. It was from 2019. It was Daniel Sloss, a comedian who, at the time when he filmed it, he was in his late 20s. So he's a millennial, like myself. He grew up in the 90s. And he said something which I thought was funny. He said that he really wishes that he was a progressive, but he's not yet. And, millennials, more so than Gen Z, we grew up in a time when it was totally acceptable to say things out loud that today would be very unacceptable to say out loud. The 90s were a different time from the 2020s, and they weren't that long ago. Still, as long as we're making continuous efforts to learn from people who are smarter and more experienced than we are, we're making progress. It is progressive. It's progressive to at least try. And being uncomfortable is a part of that.